have an excellent panel who will be bringing in perspectives from public health, large-scale implementation, gender and rights, and also from organization leadership, or I would say industry leadership. And over the next 30 minutes, we will be exploring how AI and data-driven tools can expand scale, access, inclusion, but still being human-centric. And I want to have this discussion today grounded more in reality than mere theory around AI. So when we say AI for good, it means different things to different people depending on where they are sitting. And so I would just want to pose a question to two of our panelists, if I may choose Aishwarya and Akhila. What is, when you hear the phrase AI for good, what is that one real world problem you feel it can help solve meaningfully and not just being impressive? So yeah, Aishwarya, if you want to get started.
Sure. Thank you so much, Arya, for the question. So, to me, I think when I hear the phrase AI for good, it actually means if AI is addressing structural exclusion. And by structural exclusion, I mean that a large share of people in communities in underserved regions face barriers related to language, geography, literacy, gender-based biases, income. So if AI as a tool, as a meaningful tool can help bridge those divides rather than exacerbate them, I think that really will actually be the impact that AI will see. And given the public health background that I work in, I think for AI for good in terms of public health means that the frontline worker, the community health worker, the different stakeholders, including the citizens, are empowered with meaningful, frugal innovations that leverages AI, as simple as an AI-based triage chatbot that helps them decide whether to take the woman, in excessive pain to a particular facility in need or not. So I think overall that kind of overarchingly means me in the context I work in. Thank you. Over to you.
I think if it has to be meaningful and AI for good, then first it has to correct the structural invisibility of all marginalized people across the public systems. We had 3 eloquent speakers who actually recognized all of this and even, talked about the correctives. And yet, recognition is one, and actually getting it done is the other. The AI advocates, in all sort of honesty, with all, due respect to them, do sort of, highlight what is called the efficiency factor, including the Padma madam just now. And they talk about one very important thing, and that is removing, the so-called intermediaries that are partisan, that are biased. Notwithstanding that, somewhere we need to ask ourselves our question, what exactly are we creating? Are we creating an AI tool that acts as a companion, that is an actor by itself? There is an actor quotient that gets strengthened. And that's a serious question, because in the kind of, social programming that we do, both for, equity and for gender equality, there is, a lot of recognition of this. You can see them laboring their explanation. They want to, set it right. It's not like anybody has any, devious intent. They want to set it right. But the question is, does all that intent get translated into action? Does rights become entitlement? That's the big question. Millions of women are running around, not able to access simple things, even what is available in the Anganwadi. Just right under your nose, they're not able to access because of, documentation. Migrant workers get completely excluded because there's a static database. There's this 3 lakhs or whatever, that 30 lakhs has been cited as the e-shram for the last 3 years. It's not moving beyond that 30 lakhs, the first, spurt of, registration. The informal workers, many of them are criminalized, whether it's the rag pickers, whether it's the transgenders, whether it's the sex workers, because they work on the streets along with the police, and they're the first people that get the so-called danda, from the law enforcers. And they don't want to be classified. They would, prefer to be, misclassified. So these are all the challenges, and just talking about, more accurate targeting or rightful targeting, or ensuring, predictive, stopping predictive frauding, or, accelerating verification by itself can actually accentuate exclusion. So I think that's what we need to be very cautious about, and, accept, not just trade off good versus bad, but actually look at what it is missing with great, focus. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing those thoughts. So accurate targeting is so very important, and maybe AI can play a role in there. My next question to you is, Aishwarya, like PATH works at scale across health systems. Where have you seen AI and data-driven tools actually help scale impact without losing the local context?
Sure. Thank you so much, Arya. PATH works, across public health settings in India, across South Asia and Africa. And very recently in our work, we've seen that there is a demand for AI tools massively. But we have taken a step back and we have assessed if there is a need. And wherever, and I can give you an example that we have deployed a suite of AI, tools for early screening of breast cancer, cervical cancer, for screening of TB in a rural district in Maharashtra, in a tribal population, and we've gone, stepwise or phase-wise, if I may say, undertook, a human-centered design study first to analyze and see if the cohort of frontline workers, the ANMs that have to actually use these screening tools are, accustomed to the workflow. We have taken a cautious step that we don't, use them as plugins, but we integrate it in the actual workflow that exists at the primary healthcare level where they're actually undertaking these screenings. And then at a global level, I would like to highlight 2 of our clinical trials. So a lot of emphasis at PATH is to generate evidence. As we've heard around that, do these tools actually work? Like ma'am was mentioning, that are they efficient? We're claiming that they save time, they save money. The large problem in the public health sector is that duplication of data, multiplication of data entry into different portals, documentation errors. So to kind of validate some of this and generate evidence, we're running 2 trials in Rwanda and Kenya, where a simple, like I said, a chatbot or a clinical decision support system is being rolled out among those community health workers. Again, co-designed or co-built with them in those settings, and they're almost, they were launched last year, so I think the results would come in the next 2 years, and we'll see if these LLM-based chatbots or models actually work. So just to summarize, using the human-centered design approach to co-build some of these tools in the local settings, like you said, without keeping the local realities in mind while we're working at scale, and then augmenting with real-world evidence, to look at some of these tools if they work or not, and then modify our approaches accordingly. Thank you.
Thanks. So it was great to hear on how things work at scale. So scale is powerful, but it also comes with a lot of risk. So as system scales, exclusions scale too. And this is the point where we need to think about the rights and inclusion of people we might be leaving behind. And it becomes very critical to focus on that. And with this, I would like to ask my next question to you, ma'am. From a gender and rights lens, what worries you most when you see AI getting introduced into the social programs And where do you see the real opportunities?
So again, to be wary of the assumption that AI brings objectivity, neutrality, sort of no value bias. I think we need to be wary of that, because a lot of the studies have already proven, as the keynote address presented, that a lot of it is performative. A lot of the sort of it reproduces and normalizes many of the social norms, because that's embedded in the language, in the data, and all of that. So that's one note of caution for us. Having said that, we're also aware that the cost of all of this, because as Padma ma'am just now said, that when decisions are made, they're in fact, it's to some extent even fearful that there might be some cost at these decisions, because a lot of that assumes that trust can be automated. It can never be automated. Autonomy without rights is a problem, because given the complexities that we are living in. So this assumption that, my data is perfect, she also said, sometimes gives them a lot of word of caution to them also. So it's very important that, we look at that element. So in all this context, where is the opportunity? Now to turn and we know, because we work on the ground, we want to tell everybody here that this social impact is, something that is very visible everywhere. And there's a whole generation, I belong to I'm one of those midnight children, born on the cusp of, independence. And I know that in that first 20 years, the lower middle class and the middle class, like all of us were part of, were, very conscious that this is our, building years. We are going to go ahead. And we saw the first generation of, graduates, engineers, doctors, not only sort of, populating the intellectual resources of the country, but they were also going abroad. And they created a whole pathway for social mobility. There were families that went anywhere from 4 children to 11 children. There was no family planning, none of that was there. So we were part of the generation. The same, set of, urges are there in the poor today. They want to come out. They want to realize it in their lifetime. They want to see their children placed elsewhere. It is this aspiration that, the AI can address, particularly the voice-based. All the multilingual AI is very exciting. You can see that a lot of the dependency is reduced. Paralikha. No, there's no need. You're your own agency. Your own agency can be given full potential. All the sort of, barriers, particularly literacy. It's a big sort of, almost a kalam, a little stigma that I can't read and write. All of that is pulled out. And the entire frontline workers, let me tell you, to all of us here, they're actually holding the country up, up. Without them, we will all collapse. We'll just be, in a state of, emotional turmoil. For them, it's been a great, it's reduced their load. It's improved follow-up. It has, sustained or supported their documentation. They're being celebrated, they're being feted, they're being felicitated, they're being recognized. This is a big breakthrough. Within this, if we could build the trust factor, the human factor, ensure that, women know why decisions are being made on their behalf and why it's being made, give them the right to consent and dissent. Please do not do all the data extraction without them knowing, without their consent. Please recognize that contestability is part of trust building. With your children, we know that every stage they contest what we say, and then they get convinced. Their own conviction grows about their own value system. So this contestability can be increased. The human element must be increased. They must be made part of the whole technology. It should not be seen as something for them. It should be seen by and with them. And there's huge opportunities.
Thank you so much. So what's that one design choice that, as per you, would determine whether AI is including or excluding people?
Yeah, it's this very intersection, what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Autonomy, right, and power. All three we will have to negotiate. And it is this element that they know what they are getting into, that their opinions matter, their context is, both a strength and a, a impediment, that they become part. They are not the face of the problem, they are the face of the solution. And the technology becomes their handmaiden.
Wow. So very beautifully put this together, ma'am. Building trust, keeping human in the center.
And autonomy with rights.
And autonomy.
With rights.
Yeah, thank you. I would now like to, ask my next question to Priti. So Magic Bus operates at massive scale and it works very closely with young people. So what concrete AI initiative is Magic Bus driving to improve school to work transition for these young people? If you can share some light on that.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking this question, because what I hear all of us saying and all those who spoke before us is really about AI for masses. The good will happen, but you have to really ensure that it's more inclusive and you're democratizing the skill itself. So you do more than you say less, So at Magic Bus, as you know, we have really large-scale operations at 23 states, and we will be empowering almost 50 lakh young people across 2 programs of adolescents as well as youth, giving them livelihood and sustainable workspace. So that's what we do at Magic Bus, and we ensure that this whole idea of AI for masses is really put in action. So back in 2022 and early 2022 itself, we had started building a lot of tools that could make our internal processes very efficient. Before we got into the program, we ensured that our finance, communication, reporting, donor management, donor reporting, because we work at very, very large scale at a very, very high pace environment. And to ensure that it is very well done, very efficiently, professionally done, we used AI very heavily to do so. We worked on, just to give you examples, so we had narrative reports done very fast. There were live data that was shared with donor partners, so we were able to sort of build trust with the help of AI, ML, and all the technology platforms that we have created from last so many years. And Magic Bus is a tech-first NGO in the country. And that's how we were able to build that scale. Over a period of time, what we also thought that ensuring the transition of school to work is very important, and we embedded AI skills in our programs. So we ensured that young people was, given understanding of AI as early as grade 6. So we have a program called AI Ki Dunya, where we, we sort of make young people understand what it really means. Because what's happening at the last mile, and we can talk about it, is there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of confusion that how am I going to be part of this? Am I, not going to be included in the growth of this entire journey? So, we have grade 6 to 8, we tell them about what is really AI, and you won't believe there are young kids coming up with brilliant ideas saying, oh, AI can get us become our teacher, AI can tell us how much water can we put in our plants and in our farm, and many, many such examples. And we move from there to grade 8, 9, 10, 11. We sort of amp up the curriculum. We start building prompt engineering understanding and so on and so forth. And last year we empowered about 35,000 plus youths, and this year we will be covering 150,000 youths with AI skills. What we also do is we run this program at colleges where youths are going to be placed in jobs. And that's where the entire school to work transition becomes reality. How do you make them career ready? And that's where we start teaching them prompt engineering, and as well as ma'am said, ethical usage of AI. Because at workplace, I don't think there are standard frameworks so far to really build that ethical practices, how you are using AI and what, so on and so forth. So we have seen our young people who have, the youths who have applied AI in their jobs really do very well, and get promoted, get rewarded for the kind of skills that they have applied. So just to sort of sum up this entire activity, there are two things that we work on for school to work transition, for every young person to break out of this cycle of poverty, is to ensure that they understand that this is not to be something to be scared of. You are part of it, and you can definitely use it for your advantage, and which is the behavior change activity that I feel not just underserved community, everyone needs to sort of work on that and reflect on that. And the second most important part about AI is as much as you use it. So what is really the application of AI, and how do you make it for your advantage of your own life, your career, your environment and ecosystem? So these are the two areas we heavily work on the last mile.
Yeah. And I think Magic Bus is one of those, as Priti mentioned, tech-first organization who has been using AI extensively, both for their internal operations and into their programs. So Priti, another question I have, that do you think there is any outcome that you can measure to prove that AI is actually improving the chances of sustainable livelihood through your program?
Yeah, so I would also mention, since we work last mile and there's so many examples that we have, I must say that it would be wrong to say that with AI skills, our youths are able to get the job. That's not the case. There are no specific AI positions that are there, or roles or jobs are there. So that's not really what is happening. But what really happens is once they get the job, as you know that we place about 80% of our youths who gets trained. This year we will be placing about 3 lakh youths in job. But when they get the job, that is when they apply the AI skills that they have learned, and then the shift of success coming. And that's really is the outcome, right? Because if you learn something, the skills that you have, and if you don't really apply them, we have so many examples. I'll give you one example of a girl called Shreya. She did our program in college, and she used AI, she used Gamma, she used a lot of these tools that we were able to impart. And she got promoted just in 3 months, and she was given larger roles. And now she is, after saving money for her MBA, now she's applying for colleges for MBA. So it's not that the youths are getting, at least now, getting jobs because of the AI skills that we're giving, but it's definitely giving them that edge in the workplace, which is needed by everyone today.
Thank you. So as organizations are adopting AI and data tools, another important question that emerges is, who is responsible when things go wrong or when bias creeps in? And at this point, I would like to invite Dr. Ganesh. So sir, from an industry and governance perspective, who should be accountable for AI accuracy, AI safety, and honesty in the social sector? Should it be the tech builders, the implementation organizations, or the funders? What are your views on that?
First of all, thank you, and thank you very much to Anurag and Deepika for letting me participate in this fascinating discussion online. And to answer the question, let me give you two examples of two of our companies where we're doing AI and ML extensively. One is, of course, Educate Girls, which, as most of you will be aware, became the first social organization in the country to receive the Diamond Magazine Award in November this year. And there we work primarily with tribal girls in UP, Rajasthan, Pradesh, Bihar. And the basic purpose is to put every girl child in the tribal areas back to school. And as you probably know, dropping out of school is a malaise, which is primarily in the rural sector and much more in the tribal sector, because it's so easy to get a girl child to do work at home and do fees, etc., etc. So we use AI and ML particularly in machine learning for the last 5 years. And the idea is to track literally every village that we work with. There are team balikas which are working with AI to ensure that every child is tracked down, and we know what the family's predictions are. We are able to predict whether the child will get married out at age of 13 or 14, which is a big problem in our society. And they have very targeted interventions for that. Similarly, the other entity which I founded 10 years ago, called Lighthouse Communities, which now works in 52 locations across the country. And there, the whole model of using AI is right from mobilization, which means that you could actually track in, and we have a full Google mapping of every slum segment that we are working with in the city. And you can actually use AI to track which could be the likely candidate for getting into a livelihood and getting into jobs. Tracking the performance of the student right through their learning process, the agency building as well as the skilling. And I think the most exciting aspect of AI is we're able to track what could be the likelihood of a person dropping out because of their first job within 2 months, and they get bored, they want to come back to the village, or come back to the slum. And that's something we find fascinating. And to your question, I think is a really important question. There's always a likelihood that because of work in a specific set of villages or set of, as in the case of Educate Girls, or a set of slum communities, in the case of Lighthouse, you could have bias in it. And biases are human bias. You also tend to transfer that bias because of continuity of or perpetuation of the bias into the AI. So we have actually AI monitors who are ensuring that of every test case of prediction, let's say if you predict that in this slum community, these 40 households will have people who should be targeted by the Lighthouse and brought to the Lighthouse of education. But you will find that the bias will be extreme because of a demographic or a background of a particular group, where they come from in terms of, are they migrant workers, are they people grown in the city, and so on and so forth. So we can't connect with the bias of that. And to answer the question specifically, who is responsible? I think very much the implementer of AI in an organization is responsible. I don't think we need government to come with a heavy hand and say that look, AI should not be used here, there, everywhere. But we should ourselves be very conscious that biases can creep in grouping. In fact, I've seen even in the corporate sector, where I run through large companies, that AI bias can creep into recruitment, because you will eventually end up saying that the recruitment candidates that are coming up for recruitment are based on a pattern of demographic or a pattern of demographics that came in the last 10 years of recruitment. So similarly in mobilization, similarly in placement, similarly in ensuring, I think it's our responsibility as social sector to understand AI and all its ramifications. Because the inferences you can draw from the wrong data or the wrong inferences you can draw even from the correct data are enormous. So this is something that I think I'm glad that all of you are touching upon. And if you can get that right, then as I think all the panelists have said, AI is a wonderful tool. Okay, given the right focus in the right hands, I think it can perform magic. Whether you use AI to train your people, as magic was rightly, or you use AI in the entire process of touching every beneficiary and making sure that your objectives are met. I think the responsibility lies very much within us. Of course, we can rely on technology providers to try and see how we can iron out the bubbles, and there are enough technology capabilities in the AI to ensure that biases can be interpreted. But ultimately, it's leaders who will make it happen. And I know people like Mr. Meena Shah, I think, whose audience who do the jobs, and Swati Agarwal, and all of them are very conscious of this. And I think people who are using technology know how to make this happen extremely well. But thank you.
But if I can just ask you a follow-up question. You said that AI is a wonderful tool, and there's a lot of buzz around AI and organizations wanting to adopt AI. But sir, if you could say, what is that one non-negotiable principle that organizations should adopt first before they think about adopting AI?
I think it's extremely important to the non-negotiable principle is that we must have outstanding business processes. Because sometimes when you put AI into a big process, the process is not ready for AI implementation. And you take the foot off the brake, and then AI runs amok. I mean, that has happened in many situations. I mean, if any of your readers of UL know Arya, you would have read his book Nexus. And I was privileged to talk to him in New York last year, where he spoke about the Rohingya crisis in Myanmar, for instance, where you got the algorithm to almost identify which clinics to be propagated on a certain social media platform and which voices to be muted. And here the process was not defined, saying that, look, how do we ensure a non-biased influence, selecting people that we should allow on a social media platform. And AI as an algorithm had this impression that, look, we want people who will generate more audience. So while some unethical voices were more propagated, some ethical voices were suppressed. And if you read this book Nexus, you will find this great detail. And similarly, so I think we have to be clear on what are we trying to do, and that is not something that we can delegate to AI. But once that, as you said, non-negotiable is that this is what we are to accomplish, then putting in technology, putting in processes, putting in AI will really help us to accelerate that. And we will do good things much faster rather than trying and end up doing bad things.
Absolutely, totally resonate. So technology should always be looked as an enabler, and you need to first, reflect internally what are you wanting to do, and if technology is a solution for that. I know we are like the time's up for this session, but I just want to close this panel discussion with a 2-minute rapid fire question to all the panelists. And my question is, what should happen in the next 2 to 3 years for AI to truly serve social impact at scale for India? So we can, Dr. Ganesh, why don't we start with you on this?
We have to be believers in the positive aspect of AI. Because as a society, we are very self-critical. And we always look at the bad side and say that, oh my God, this can happen and so many things can go wrong. So I think what should definitely happen is people should, and I'm really glad that, buying for example, the classic case of young people understanding the value of AI in a very positive sense. So I think we should focus on the positives and reinforce those and make sure that we get the benefit of what can really be put to mankind.
Okay, ma'am, would you want to?
I think, like all issues, in the last couple of years, there's been a lot of emphasis now because in transition, things are very awkward. You're not able to know whether it's doing good or whether it's doing harm. So, in transition now, we are actually looking very seriously at first listing out risk, listing out do no harm, not do good, because it can cancel out things. So I think having a do no harm policy on AI for social impact is very, very critical. The other is, what you call, there is a number of divides. There's a social divide, there's a digital divide. Maybe we are getting into an algorithmic divide. Maybe we need to revisit that algorithmic. What Padma ma'am was saying, is something we need to look at. These are two messages, yeah.
Yeah, so I think I'll give that to her. I think next 2-3 years you have to jump into the action. As you know, Magic Bus is known for, just getting into it. Just to let everyone sitting here know that we actually launched a AI-enabled tutor now. So that tutor will be used by our young people, youths and adolescents, where they will be able to learn English, prepare for their interviews, prepare as simple as how do I introduce myself. It's called Magic Bus Vani. And Vani will be helping them in their comfort. See, what happens is young people, it's not just about technology, they have a lot of other nuances. They are not confident to talk in front of multiple people, there is language barrier. So like ma'am said, we are working on voice, and also Magic Bus Vani will be having 6 to 7 native languages. That's what Magic Bus will be working on, ensuring that we have tools that are used for the advantage of our young people, and looking at like-minded donor partners who can come on board to build a collaborative to ensure every single young person is jumping onto this skill that is really needed for the future. Yeah.
I think to summarize, I would like to say that the use of effective use of AI will not only depend on individual use cases that we build, all the algorithms that we are looking at, but mostly the ecosystem approach to AI adoption. When I say ecosystem, it means the regulatory alignment that needs to be there, the effective implementation of the AI governance guidelines, and we in India are way ahead with the India AI mission, streamlining some of these resources. And I think the governance, regulatory alignment, and largely the cross-sector alliances, so the industry talking to the academy and the research domains, and the private sector rising up to the occasion when there is need. So all of this in totality will actually help us in the next few years to actually look at the real value of AI adoption. Depending on whoever the targeted beneficiary is, it could be healthcare sector, education, agriculture, any livelihoods. So yeah, thank you.
Cool. So thank you all, and thank you everyone for sharing your thoughts based on your rich experiences of what you work on, and thank you, Dr. Ganesh, for joining us online. I had a wonderful time talking on this topic. So while Tech for Dev does develop tech solutions and we're building an AI platform, but this was a very, very grounding conversation for me, especially, ma'am, as you said, do not harm policy. And there were other few key takeaways for myself from this discussion. So I'm really I get very enriched today with this discussion, and I hope you all found meaning in this conversation. So thank you so much.